43:18, he says, "Remember not the former things, neither consider the things of old. Behold, I'm doing a new thing." So, remember not the former things, neither consider the things of old. Behold, I'm doing a brand new thing. Then a few chapters over, he says, "Remember the former things." So I think, well, what does he want us to do? The same guy is writing that. But he said that there are certain things to remember, but there are certain things to just forget. Remember not the former things. On the ranch, my dad was adamant about closing gates. You don't go through a gate and leave it open. So there are certain things that we just need to shut the gate. There are certain things in one pasture that don't need to be in another. Matter of fact, I'll tell you a little story. This is typical. This would be typical. My dad passed away in 2015, but when he was cowboying back in the rugged, that Bloody Basin wilderness area, had a horse go over with him in a wash, and it flipped over upside down, and he ended up, there was a rock there. He had a compound fracture, just snapped the bone in his leg. So it's about a half day. That sounds like it's something. Oh, is that the? I just thought that was. God, thank you. I'm hearing. Okay, I didn't think that at all. So Dad's telling me this story. He said, "Yeah," I said, "I broke my leg," and he said, he goes, "Man," he said, "I got on my horse," and he said, "I was making it back." He said, "It was about a 4-hour ride back to the ranch," and he said, "It got to hurting so bad I didn't even get off and close those last 2 gates." So I thought, with a broken leg, why'd you close the first 2 or whatever? So there are certain things in your past that doesn't need to come into the next pasture. That's really what I'm saying. And we need to get where we are adamant about closing gates. And there are certain times that we need to remember what's in the other pasture, though, but we don't need to open the gate so it comes in the next one. Make sense? Starbuck has never been on this pedestal. So I thought we might just go ahead and, you always want to practice things in front of a crowd in case it goes bad. So you think you can get up there? There you go. All right. You're pretty amazing. All right. We'll see how close you can get to it here. Hey, I like this. This is good. All right. As we're looking at this new year and new challenges, new promises, hopefully, I like the fact that there are New Years, and I'm not a big one for New Year's resolutions. There are certain things I want to do this year, though, but I'm not really big on resolutions and having these lofty goals. I try to keep it pretty realistic. But as we approach a new year, I don't know about you, but there are certain things that I look at with culture, and I think, man, it is society is really, in many respects, just unraveling, and it really does. You look at the future and what the future holds, and what it is that we can or should do, and I'm not one to be, to react to everything, but I think there are certain things that we have to react to and respond to. So here's what Isaiah says, and it's going to get positive here, but I want to point out a few things. In today's climate, it doesn't matter how gracious or kind you are, you can immediately be labeled evil or any number of phobias. He said, "Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light, light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter." we're living in difficult times. We're living in beyond interesting times, and I think we've come beyond that tipping point. How are you from Canada? A number of Canadians. The Canadians didn't show up. This is serious. So we can really talk about those Canadians, man. No, there's usually a few folks from Canada, but same thing. United States and Canada, some of the same dynamics. It was Mark Twain who said the two most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you find out why. The two most important days in a person's life are the day you're born and the day you find out why. When I start working with a horse, this horse came out of the wild, as I mentioned. When I first started working with him, he didn't know why. He knew that he was in my corral, but after a while he goes, this is why. And I really, in many respects, wish I could be as responsive as this horse. Because I don't know if you look at a wild horse just to stand, he's not nervous at all, waiting for me to tell him what to do. So those are, if you think about that, why are you born? Why are you here? And what is it as we look at not just a new year, but maybe a new decade? I'll turn 70 this year, so you start kind of thinking. I was telling Libby the other day. I said, I've never been adamant about believing in the whole Darwinian evolution, but I find myself really illustrating the evolutionary process from the hunched over guy. When I get up in the morning, by the time I get to the coffee, I'm walking upright. It's kind of like I go from Cro-Magnon to whatever, and then I go, okay, now I can stand up. So I have no idea why I shared that. Okay. Here's what Corinthians 9:25 said. Everyone who competes, and he's talking about it in these sporting events, everyone who competes goes into strict training. They do it to get a crown that will not last. We do it to get a crown that will last forever. Therefore, I do not run like someone running aimlessly. I do not fight like a boxer beating the air. He says, I'm not shadow boxing through life. There are real, tangible things I'm doing. And the Bible is clear that we are to reach that point where we say, God, help me to just stand my ground. So I'm gonna address a couple things that I think the church has to start addressing. And one matter of fact, there were a couple of folks I was talking to earlier that were saying, okay, they've got a drag queen event scheduled for Florence here in March. And I think, okay, if they want to, but I'm not going to go. Anyway, that's why you don't want to point at anybody and say, but we live it's just an interesting culture, interesting time where we have to be able to say, you know what, there are certain things that are right and certain things that are wrong. On the ranch, we learned pretty quick that there was a difference in boys and girls, because you had boy horses and girl horses and boy cows and girl or bulls, understand. So some of the issues that we face, what we have to do is simply say, I don't need to spend my life and all my energy championing everything, but I do need to at some point say, where do I draw that line? If I were to go to Jim, I'll pick on Jim McBroom. I've never done this before, picked on Jim. If I were to go to Jim's place, he lives up on top of the world. It's actually the name of the area. If I were to go to Jim's place and Jim were to say, Randy, I want you to come out. I've got a rhinoceros out in the pen. I want you to come out and just look at my rhinoceros. And I go out there, and it's this horse that he's had for 10 years, and he goes, this is a rhinoceros. I may just say, you know what, I may come back and say, wow, Jim's kind of, but he thinks he's got a rhinoceros. I wouldn't necessarily argue with him, but if he said, okay, now what you need to do is go into town and tell everybody that it's a rhinoceros, I may say, okay, that's where I'm going to draw the line. If you want to be crazy, that's one thing. But so I know this is one of those subjects that's not comfortable for everybody because everybody wants to get along. What we need is to understand that old things, he says, therefore, if any man be in Christ, he's a new creature, new creation. Old things have passed away, all things become new. And if we focus on some of those things, it's amazing what we'll be able to accomplish. Old things have passed away, all things become new. Jesus didn't die on the cross to make you a better person. Did you know that? Jesus didn't die on the cross to make you happy. I think some of those things are the results of following God, that when we follow God, we find a peace or happiness. When we follow God, we become better people, hopefully. But Jesus died on the cross to make you radically different. When I got this horse, I didn't say, what I really want is this horse to become a better wild horse. I really don't want this horse to be a wild horse. So when I got him, said, this horse, if I were to get on him like early on, and he decided he wanted to buck, if I said, you know what, I don't like that bucking thing. What I really want is I want to keep working with him where he only bucks half the time. That would be a much better horse. I've had horses kick me. Say, they're kicking me too much. I don't want them to kick me more than once a day. So my point is, I'm not looking for him to be better. I'm looking for him to be radically different. And I think that's the challenge that we face, is to be radically different and still relate to culture. So if you're an angry person, Jesus didn't die on the cross so that you be less angry. If you're depressed and lonely, he didn't die on the cross so that you would just be depressed half the time. What God really wants us to understand is that he came to make us radically new, radically different, and to approach our tomorrows with a new outlook. The old life is ended. Matter of fact, in John 3:3, Jesus says you must be born again. That's about as radically different as you can get. And the guy he was talking to said that's impossible. And Jesus was talking about a whole different concept. The old life is ended. He doesn't come in to remodel your life. We'll watch these remodeling, these home remodel shows, and they come in and just radically remodel a home. Jesus didn't come in to just remodel. Old things are passed away; all things have become new. The Bible says this is from God who reconciled us to himself through Christ. You can experience new joy, new peace. The issue that I mentioned earlier with culture, I have very close family members that are just gripped in that, and it's very sad. Tough times demand tough people, and I think that's where we are as a culture. By nature, I'm not a confronted person. I pretty much do anything to. I don't like conflict. If you gotta get in, I'm just not going to get in everybody else's stuff. On Facebook, I'm not going to go on anybody's Facebook page and try to correct everybody. If you post anything on Facebook, it seems like everybody, it seems like there are people who want to come in and cry. I'm just not a confronted person. I think, I just want everybody to just be happy. But there are some points you just draw the line. Here's what 2 Peter 3. In the last days there will be difficult times. Now, notice he's writing this 2,000 years ago, okay? So he said, in the last days there will be very difficult times. People will love only themselves and their money, boastful and proud, scoffing at God, disobedient to parents, ungrateful. They'll consider nothing sacred, unloving, unforgiving, slander others, have no self-control, cruel, hate what is good, betray their friends, reckless, puffed up with pride, love pleasure rather than God, act religious but reject the power that can make them godly. Man, I wonder when that's going to happen. And he said, he said 2,000 years ago, it said, in the last days, this is coming. So I think we can look at that and go, that looks like the headlines. So you say, well, Randy, that's really pretty depressing. Well, here's what Jesus also said in John 16:33. In the world you'll have tribulation, be of good cheer, I have overcome the world. Okay, that's the world, Jesus, that you've overcome. So when Starbuck gets into confusion or frustration, and we work through a lot of stuff. He's my main clinic horse, and what I'll do sometimes, if we're out and he goes, this is really confusing, I'll get off, and then I'll walk him through something like going over this. If we're going through something or there's an area there, he goes, I'm not sure about this, I'll get off and lead him through it once, get back on him, and he goes, okay, I got it. I'm not going to say, you stupid horse. What I will do is help him figure it out. When Jesus says, be of good cheer, I've overcome the world, I want him to know I'm never going to ask him to do something that he can't do. I'll come over here. And so this would be a good example. There we go. Oh, no, got to go. There we go. So for him to say that now, if we had went that the first time, he may have said, I don't know about this. But we walked through it. So there are going to be obstacles in this next year, and I can promise you that God will walk through those things with you. And you say, God, this really is bothering me. This is something that I'm not sure how to handle. There are going to be things with your family, things with you personally, things with health. And God will say, I'll walk with you through those things. So the first thing, for refuse to live in the past, I'll go through these pretty quick. Refuse to live in the past. Don't live this next year in regret of the last year. I can... And I imagine a lot of you are like that. I can beat myself up over I should have, could have, didn't, why'd this happen, rather than say, okay, I can't change that. One of the things that I do, and I really do this with pretty much anything that happens, and this is going to sound a little odd at first, probably. The first thing I do is blame myself 100% for everything that happened. That's the way I start. And then I go from there. Whatever happened, I want to first think that's 100% my fault. And then I go, okay, well, that part isn't that part. I may come down to 20% my fault. But I always start with it being my fault. You know why I do that? Because I can't change anybody else. I can't change anybody else. I can only work on me. And if it's God's fault, I'm really in trouble. If God is just messing with me, I'm really in trouble. So I start with say, okay, what did I do wrong? That may be a better way of putting it, rather. What did I do wrong? What did I do that caused this? Maybe nothing. You may end up at the end of it all saying, okay, I didn't do anything, but I at least evaluated myself. An unexamined life is not worth living. An unexamined life is not worth living. And somebody once said an unlived life is not worth examining. So An unexamined life is not worth living. So refuse to live in the past. Don't live in regrets over the past. Cast all your cares on him. Don't live with this, I should have, could have, wish I had a, didn't. Say, God, your mercy's new every morning. And what can I do today? I never, and I really mean this, I never will correct a horse for something they did in the past that we're trying to get over. I've had people over the years just really tell me things that their theory on horse training that are crazy. I had one guy say, well, with Mustangs, you throw them down, put a tarp over them, and beat the tarp with a baseball bat until they stop reacting. I think, you need to be thrown down and put a tarp over you and beat with a baseball bat. But I didn't. So we're not going to do that. So I said, hey, but don't beat yourself up over things. Just realize that God's on your side. I can now face with confidence things of the past because of what Jesus did in the past. Jesus said, I have come that they may have life and that they may have it more abundantly. The life we live today should be radically different. So the power to change is not up to you. It is the power for this horse to change is not up to him. He did not get in the pen and say, I think I'm ready to be ridden today. I think I'm ready to be on a pedestal. I think the power to change came from him responding to who's in the saddle, responding to the weight. We can be into a collected lope, and I can change my position and sit back, and he'll come to a stop. Different things where he's just sensing a shift. If we could get somewhere close to that, man, we'd be pretty awesome. Just, God, I just feel like you're doing something. There's something shifting. Once we're different, try to live that life. Will he ever regress? We were on a deer hunt up in Kaibab, and I had him and another horse, and we were dropping down into a canyon. And I mean, both of them, they were both Mustangs that would come out of the wild. Both of them, I mean, they locked up, ears went forward, and they whirled around and took off the other direction. So I had to catch my one horse and went back and looked down. I didn't see anything, but they smelled something, they sensed something. So I thought, I don't think I'm going to go down in that canyon. Well, in other words, is your past ever going to come back and give you a major direction? Yes, and it's not always wrong. So what brought you to the point of where you are has made you who you are. So what we need to do is say, well, there are certain things we need to overcome. We don't need to overcome everything. We don't need to just fight every fight. But so I don't expect him to be perfect or expect him just to blindly go wherever I tell him to go. I expect him to say, hey, I'm not comfortable with this. And then if I need to help him through it, I can. If I say, well, maybe there's something to that. And in that certain area, there were a lot of lions. It was a time of year where the bears were hibernating, but thought I probably know what's down there. So I don't necessarily want to encounter a lion today. So live with a renewed purpose. Pablo Picasso, one of my favorite quotes, the meaning of life is to discover your gift. The purpose is to give it away. The meaning of life is to discover your gift. The purpose is to give it away. What needs to be done is the first question. What do I need to do? The second thing is, can I do what needs to be done? The third thing, the most critical, I think, is will I do it? So yeah, it needs to be done. Yeah, I can do it, but I don't think I'm going to do that. Then you back up and you say, what will I do? I'm not saying that. I'm not saying, this is, everything's going to be fine. We're all going to be happy. But I am saying that when God gets in the middle of it, it's amazing what happens. When God gets in the middle of culture, we really need to be praying for our nation. We really need to be praying for our political leaders. We need to be praying for our families. And there are certain things in culture that we don't have to fix everything. So the reason I'm saying that is everything I believe that God wants to do in your life is between you and God. The Bible says, "Work out your own salvation with fear and trembling, for it is God who works in you, both to will and to do for His good pleasure." So as we approach, whether it's a new year, a new day, a new month, God, what is it that I need to do? Can I do that? And will I do that? And that's going to be. There are things in your families that are unique to you. There are things in your past that are unique to you. What most of us do is we beat ourselves up so much for what we didn't do, should have done, could have done, that we don't do what needs to be done in the tomorrows. We'll spend time beating ourselves up for the failures rather than say, now I know how not to do things, and move forward into the life that God has for you. When He says old things are passed away, all things become new, what He's really saying is His mercy's new every morning. Every new thing you get will not remain new for very long. Every new thing, we say, well, I need a new phone. They came out with this new phone that, I've got to have. I need a new truck. I do need a new truck. I need a new horse. Not you. But whatever it is, but everything you get has a life, if you will, and it won't be new for long. But God says His mercy's new every morning. So every day you get up, say, God, I've got a brand new day, new every morning. And so God has something new for you, not just for the year, but every morning.